Enlightenment, the Buddha explains in different ways enlightenment in a practical way and also in a spiritual way. So, spiritual way is that there is no more rebirth, there is no more suffering, no more birth, old age, sickness, and death, no more body, feelings, perceptions, intentions, and consciousness. That all is spiritual, because that's something that is not easy to check right now. It is possible to attain the full enlightenment before dying and know what it is about before dying, so being still able to share it with others. But it still is somewhat spiritual, because it is a little bit beyond this world. But in the practical explanation, the Buddha says that enlightenment is the utter freedom from all greed, hatred, ignorance. Or, if we are more detailed, it is the utter freedom from self-view, doubt, wrong practices, lust, hatred, attachment to material absorptions in meditation, attachment to immaterial absorptions in meditation, conceit, restlessness, and ignorance. So these 10 things are totally cut off with the full enlightenment, the 4th level of enlightenment. So in this manner, enlightenment is a kind of purification of character. And with that purification of character, one knows that they are purified. Because they are not purified just because they stop to do these things. Now, stopping to have these 10 fetters, to cutting off these 10 fetters is not intentional. It is intentional, but the enlightenment is not equal to intentional stopping of these 10. The intentional stopping of these 10 fetters leads to full enlightenment, which is the utter eradication of the roots of these 10. And the root is craving. The Buddha explains that there is suffering, and that the suffering is caused by craving. But we can look at it even deeper, and we can see that craving is caused by ignorance. And ignorance is the ignorance of not-self. So ignorance, so gnosis means knowledge, and ignorance is not knowledge. So no knowledge, not understanding. And not understanding of not-self, in other words, the belief in self, is the reason why people are greedy, hating, and ignorant. The idea that there is something permanent, that I can get a degree, that I can become famous, or that I can get married with this lady, or I can get married with this gentleman, or I can have this kind of family, or I can have this kind of car, or I can have this kind of relationship. All this is dependent on the idea of I. And this idea of I, this idea of self, is then leading toward these bad things, toward the killing, stealing, adultery, telling lies, and drinking alcohol. So, enlightenment is the vision, it's the experience of not-self. When the meditator stays calm, peaceful, equanimous, mindful, and well-concentrated in the present moment, they can observe their body. They can observe how the body is repulsive, how it's decaying, how it's causing pain 24 hours a day. This body is painful. Whatever pleasurable feeling there is, if we look at it very deeply, very carefully, we may see that even the pleasurable feelings are made up of unpleasant feelings. So we can see that these feelings are made up by this body, which is repulsive and decaying and bringing pain. We can see, therefore, that if a pleasant feeling arises from a decaying matter, then certainly it cannot be a genuine pleasant feeling, because its source is this pile of suffering. So when the yogi observes the body as it really is, without adding any imagination or perception or idea or illusion, they may see how the body is repulsive, how it is absolutely unattractive in any way from any aspect, and therefore they can detach from the body. They can cut off the attachment to the body. When the attachment to the body is fully cut off, the yogi, the meditator, can observe their mind. They can observe how the mind is dependent on intentions, perceptions, feelings, and consciousness. There are different ways how to understand the nature of mind. My favorite is observing the consciousness, because consciousness is the root. That's where it starts. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, bodily contact, and thinking, these are the 6 consciousnesses. And these 6 consciousnesses are the basis of the mind. If there is no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, bodily contact, and thinking, then there will be no memory, because memory is dependent on what we've experienced. There will be no feeling, pleasant, unpleasant. There will be no idea, no determining, no decision, no knowledge. So if the yogi, if the meditator observes how this mind is made up of these consciousnesses, and how these consciousnesses are entirely based on these 6 doors, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, then they find out that they are not in power. They are not in charge. It's these 6 senses which are in charge, and the ignorance that creates, that supports them in arising and passing. So then when this is well seen, when it is seen that this seeing consciousness is made up of arising and passing moments 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times a second, in the scriptures, billion times a second, and every moment just arises and it's gone, it's destroyed, and a new moment arises and that's destroyed, and another one arises and that's destroyed. So even if you say that this one moment is you are not in charge of making that moment. It's the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind which are in charge of making that moment. And when the moment is destroyed, there's no way how to recreate it again, because there's another moment and another one and another one. That's why memory is never recreation. Memory is never getting back to the past. So many people think they remember, but they actually remember something else than what really happened. That's because they do not remember, they actually recreate. So I'm a little bit confusing here, but what I want to say is whenever we remember something, we are not going into the past, we are just recreating the past based on the conditions which we created in the past. There's no way to get into the past. So there is no way how we can recreate these selves, these tiny moments of self. They just arise and they're gone. And this I, this consciousness, this me, cogito, ergo, sum, all that is made of these little moments. And when the meditator sees that, aha, so me is these moments, aha, so me is this decaying body, that's not very permanent. So they find out that this is not what they wanted to be. This is not what they thought they are. And at that moment, this idea of self becomes apparent as an idea only. It's no more a reality. It is clearly known that this is just an idea. This is just an illusion. Everything is just conditioned, arising and passing. And at that moment, if the meditator has perfected their detachment on the level of generosity and ethics, then it is possible to detach from this illusion of self. And that is enlightenment. The ultimate detachment and relinquishment of this idea of self is enlightenment. Enlightenment is characterized as cutting off this fetter of self-view, sakkaya ditthi. It's the first of the 10. With the enlightenment, 3 are cut off. The idea of self, the doubt in the Buddha, and the wrong practices. The idea that killing animals and sacrificing them to gods, or living like a dog, or living like a cow, eating like a dog and walking like a dog, or eating like a cow or walking like a cow, would lead to enlightenment. All these ideas are totally eliminated through the vision that not self is like this. And then the enlightenment is a total turnover, because enlightenment, yes, in English, enlightenment, so it seems as if there was some light, but it's more of the light of wisdom rather than of light that an eye would perceive. So this enlightenment, the Buddha compares enlightenment to hatching of chicks from their eggs, from their shells. So a chick, before it hatches, it is there in the dark shell of an egg. And if it moves a little bit, all of the world, rolls around. If it moves in a different way, it bounces. All of the world just bounces, and there's no space to move, and there is just no way to do anything. There's just no space to do anything. So then the chick uses its beak or claw to break the shell. And when the shell is broken, the chick finds out that the world is like this, and that this was just a shell, and that this was a shell in the world. And they realize that the world is like this, not like that. They get out from the darkness into the light of the world. So in the same way, the Buddha explains, is the experience of enlightenment. So there's this darkness of the idea that there is self, the idea that we can be happy with some positions, that we can attain pleasure with a certain man or woman, that we can attain pleasure with certain car or house, that we can attain pleasure in certain place, in a certain country or certain home. So this is all illusion, that's darkness, We're just trying to find happiness in that darkness. It's like if the chick, instead of using the beak or claw, they would be just rolling here and there and trying to find a safe spot. So then it's better to break the shell, to break the idea that this world will bring happiness, and find out that there is something else, that there is something beyond. And when a person finds this out, when the person breaks out from that shell, when the person attains freedom from this darkness and attains the wisdom, then they know it.